All right, and welcome back. Whoa, is my mic hot?
No, you sound good now.
I sound good now. Okay.
Yeah, just don't scream into it.
Just don't. Oh, let me. I can't not scream in the intro. Jordy, you can keep all that. All right, and welcome back to episode 048 of the
Okay
Guidons.
Okay.
So Jeff's the Problem podcast, powered by the Strength Co. I'm your host, Grant Broggi. The price of Bitcoin is $92,550.
Sell it all.
As seen on the block clock here. Shout out Zach Copley for sending us the block clock. Today's date is November the 26th. We're 2 days before Thanksgiving. We're already giving thanks, though, because we do it all the time. When you live in the upstate of South Carolina, where we are broadcasting from, we've alluded to it. We always mean to talk about it, but we never do. But I'm not saying this is the last episode in this Equipol chair, but it could be. At some point, we'll get into that. But yeah.
Selling the chair. Yeah.
November 26, 2024. That's the year of our Lord, of course. I think I hit all the intro. Oh, we're brought to you by BW Tax and Gridiron Green. I think it's Green Gridiron. I'm going to say it wrong every time. It kind of goes
guy.
with it.
Yeah.
Well, the helmet guy. So this is the Navy Marine Corps 2021 helmet with the red visor. They call it the Strength Co edition. You can buy it on our store. Which is Strength Co. Dare I come on here and just sling my own product? But the Strength Co's got their Black Friday sale going on right now. $500 saves you $50. $1,000 saves you $150. No, excuse me, $1,500. Yeah, $1,000 saves you $150. It's like unbelievable deals.
Can't afford not to.
Yeah, and $1,500 saves you $250. And you might find yourself in your cart with a barbell and a bunch of plates, a squat tee, maybe a leather deadlifting belt, which is free shipping. And you're like, man, I'm so close. I just need one more item. Say less. Put a little Marine Corps helmet in your cart. Or if you're not into the Marine Corps, which means you're a communist, but you want a different helmet, click the show notes. Go down to the show notes, click the link, and it'll take you out to their website. And you can buy anything you want. You can buy a Detroit Lions helmet. You could buy a Mississippi State helmet. I don't know who would do that, but you can.
Yeah. And customize it.
Yeah, you can customize it. You can add visors.
I learned that. Yeah, the hard way. Yeah,
actually, let's just get right into that. So that's the intro. We do not have, I'm just going to hit this right up front. So it's a confirmation brief. All the key players are there, but the guy that clicks the buttons on the slide is not there. And
cancel the brief, right?
The whole day falls apart. But we're going to brief anyway. But Jeff's not here anyway. So you lost the bet.
Yeah. So if the people who listened last week,
everyone,
I heard the bet was the loser buys a helmet of the other team
from the helmet guy.
From the helmet guy.
Yeah.
And like I said, very cool website. A lot of options.
Yeah.
Can customize it however you want to. So pretty impressed. And it was a good price. I thought it was gonna be pretty expensive. It was
so let's just brass tax it. Was it $50 shipped?
So 37 was $37 without shipping. And that was like customizing, and I added like a visor. Like 37 some change. Added a visor, yeah.
Okay.
So and I think when all said and done, I think $50 shipped to Utah. So
yeah, cool. So Jeff's got an Auburn helmet on his way. It is cool, and I will say, and I'll tell you this: I'd much rather you go buy a pair of Strength Co 45s and buy the helmets. But I will say, this is like a great. I forgot what to buy you for Christmas.
Oh yeah,
and like. You give any guy that likes college football or football, and you buy him this, it's going on his desk on Monday. It's just great,
it's also a great just military. Like, hey, Lieutenant, here's good job. Thanks for everything you do.
That's what I'm saying. We've sold a couple Marine ones this week, so thanks for your support.
The helmet guy.
Yeah, the helmet guy. The helmet guy. We love the helmet guy. Can't stop talking about the helmet guy. We've always loved the helmet guy. We left him in the queue for a long time. And then finally, BW did some stuff with our taxes where we decided we could have 2 sponsors. And here we are.
That was very nice of him.
Yeah. So I do have an important question for you, Trey.
What's up, dude?
Who's running the slides? Yeah, nose goes. I guess it's me.
Nose goes.
Okay, nose goes. It's me. So Mr. Buege is gone. So let me pull up the slide deck here. I hope he formatted everything correctly.
He did all right. I think he just kind of shoots from the hip. So
yeah. I want to get in.
Plan.
I want to get. We do have a guest tonight. So if you're listening and you usually log off, or you want to log off right now because Jeff's not here, we have a guest tonight in about 15 minutes. Army Major, longtime listener, first time caller. Hails from Hanover, Massachusetts. Works in Intel.
Is that by Boston?
Yeah, it's by like maybe 15 minutes.
Okay. Suburb.
Big Civil War guy, like huge Civil War guy for the wrong side. Yeah, you can interpret that as you want. Let's just say he's not from Gullah Gullah Island. And yeah, so he'll be on tonight.
Actually, you posted some stuff in there. We can touch on college football later, man, but you posted some stuff about this was your first, you just got back from a drill, right?
I love drill. Like I wish I could drill continuously.
But this was the first this is the first long trip since being dad actual, right?
You're giving me that dad content bait. Yeah, first time I left home. It went well, but it was tough.
Dude, it's hard.
And every dad probably knows that, but it's hard. And I think for me, you got to do drill. Part of my career, you leave. I'm like, they'll be fine. And then I woke up Thursday morning, and I do very little in the scope of what my wife does compared to what I do.
Yeah.
But I will say I try really hard, right?
That's all that matters. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you do your best.
Well, yeah, I did my best, but I do give it a shot. And I did wake up Thursday morning in New Jersey. And I just thought man, who washed the breast pump and brought it upstairs? So it's like a hand's width away. Who grabbed the baby at 6 and took her downstairs? Who washed the dishes? Who folded the laundry? And I found myself the last month doing a bunch of things I've never done, quite honestly. Yeah. I mean, I've done them as a single man, but since I'm married, I can't remember the last time I washed laundry.
Yeah.
But now I just do laundry all the time.
It never ends.
Yeah. And I felt like it made me sad. No, but I was oh man, poor D, because she already has so much. She's got to feed it. She carry her. She's got to do everything. And I'm now all this extra stuff. But it went well. I mean, she's, I think Destiny's Child said it best. She's a survivor.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, she did fine. But yeah, it was, it's a thing. Yeah, it's a thing. And it was funny. I was talking to some of the Marines about it that I was drilling with, and they're like, oh, the first time he leaves the worst. And I was
so guilty almost.
Super guilty.
Yeah.
The most guilty.
It's for work, but
I got into Philadelphia. Rental car was all jacked up. Everything was wrong that could have been wrong. Flight was delayed. And I go in, and I always eat at the same place every time before drill. And it's sold and it's ruined. And that was one of Jeff's slides, taverns. It's a tavern, wooden paneled walls. It's right outside the military base. It has Marine Corps patches, Army patches, Air Force patches, police patches, everything you could imagine. Whole thing's military motoed.
Okay.
And I always go there the night before. I land, I go in, and I eat dinner. And I know the staff. Of
course you do.
And then the next day, of course I do. And then the next day, we go there usually collectively. And so my gunny had texted me 2 weeks ago. He's like, it's called Terras. Bring back Terras. Make Terras great again. On the record, okay podcast. I want Terras back. And he's like, I had told him about it selling, and he went and he was like, it's terrible. And I was like, it can't be that bad. He's being dramatic. Every patch, every flag, every plaque. And I'm talking, they had like unit plaques up from like 1992, 1990. Like there was history in that place.
Yeah.
All gone. It's called Oak and Ember. The logo is like a flame. It's like super hipster. It smells like paint. It's like white in there. And so I get there like 9:15 and it's like a military tavern. I never thought, like generally you like walk into a place as a lieutenant and you're like, oh man, all the military's in here. But this place was almost kind of cool because you'd walk in, you're like, he's drilling, he's drilling, he's drilling, he's drilling. And all that vibe was gone. Place was empty. But I'm like, whatever, I'll give it a shot. So I sit up at the bar because if you sit at a table by yourself, you're a psychopath.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, can I get a menu? She's like, kitchen's closed. I'm like,
what time was it?
9:15, 21:15 for you military types. And I'm like, kitchen's closed? She said, yeah, kitchen's closed. I'm like, oh man, you guys have really changed it up. And she's like, yeah, and a lot of people don't like change, but just give it some time because the new menu is epic. And I said, I'm sure it is.
We'll find out tonight.
My only problem is I can't try it. So anyway, the tavern closed and that was sad, but yeah. Anyway, Tara's is gone. It's now Oak and Ember. We boycotted it the second night. We found another tavern that looks like
Chili's.
a house that's a restaurant. No, Applebee's. No, I actually don't remember what that place was called, but went to another place. It'll be fine. Peblums. It was further. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. I think you may have posted some lifting questions, and I think maybe last week we had the longest episode ever and didn't cover lifting.
That was pretty impressive. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe
lifting podcast.
Yeah. Well, I don't know that you call it that at this point, but I have a lot of things to talk to you about. Maybe you should ask one of those questions now. We just get it out of the way.
Man, that's actually it's a good point.
You know, it's just done.
I think I had like 4 of them.
I think you had like 5. So why don't you just scan the slide deck? It's probably under agenda. And then you just pick one, and I'm just going to shoot from the hip. I may do like a weird Strength Co intro because I'm running on fumes and short on content, but
okay.
Don't be shocked.
Man, there's a lot of good ones I was curious about, but
are you ready?
I would do, and I'm sure
are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. I'm going to intro you to it. You ready?
Okay.
Sorry, okay, podcast listeners, but we're short on time and Content Grant is here. Hey guys, and welcome back. It's Grant Broggi from the Strength Co. live from the OK Podcast. If you don't watch the OK Podcast, go down to the show notes and go watch it. You can see the whole episode, mostly about college football. But today we're going to talk about
lifting,
because that's all we know.
That's all we know.
Trey, what's your question?
Hey man, so you're a dad. I'm a dad, right?
Yeah,
we're both dads. Yeah, we know we're dads. So girl dads, to be specific. Both of them babies right now. But I think I've heard a lot of people ask this before, but I've heard, what age do you start kids lifting? I'm sure you get this question a lot. But is it too young? Is there too young to start, or is it start immediately? What do you think?
Wait, what's the girl dad? What's the girl dad part, or is that the follow-on question?
No, it's just like, hey, we're girl dads. I'm just getting more specific on what type of dads we are.
Girl dads. I would say we've talked about this a little bit in videos past, but first of all, you need to think of lifting as like any kind of recreational activity. So if you don't ask someone, well, some people do, like, what age can I teach my daughter to swim? Or what age can my daughter play soccer? Or what age can my daughter go to recess and slide down the slide? You just do those things. Mm-hmm. But there's something about the barbell that makes it weird. So the example I've given before, and I still like to give, and we generally use it with boys, but let's use it with girls. So you have a girl and she wants to play sports and she's, 8, and you put her in gymnastics. And she runs and flips and jumps on a beam and falls over and like hits her head on a pad. And we're like, yeah, that's okay. Or she plays volleyball and she like runs, goes up to the net, goes to slap it and runs into another girl at the net as she's trying to spike it and hits her head and falls down in the sand or in the indoor court. And we're like, yeah, that's okay. Or with boys, I often say, they both put on football helmets. Go visit the helmet guy if you need a helmet. Seriously, show note links if you got a helmet that you want. And they run full speed at each other and they hit each other in the head. They both do targeting. And we're like, that's fine. And then someone sees a child deadlifting and we're like, what are you doing? You're going to stunt their growth. And that's wrong. At the same time, what I have seen as a gym owner and as a dad, I identify as both. Some people want like it's the same thing in sports. Like the dad was good at football. So they're like forcing football on the son or daughter or whatever. And it's like, yo, let him be a kid. We see that in the gym too, where the dad just deadlifted 500. And so he's pushing the kid really hard. What I would say is if they are pre-Tanner stage 3, homeschool knowledge right there. Prepubescent, prepubescent. You should not be training them, meaning you should not be loading them super, super heavy and trying to make the same adaptations that happen to you in your 40s happen to your child. You should, though, however, introduce them to the gym. I think it's a great thing. I think like it's kind of like Trey, Church of Christ, myself, Southern Baptist. Like our parents just like took us to church as kids, and like you don't know what's going on. You don't know what you believe. You don't know that Christ died for your sins, but you're just like, church, this seems like a good thing to do. Then later in life, you're like, oh, this is like the answer to all my problems. I should go to church. I think the gym is kind of similar. Like if you expose your kid to it, you show them to it. Like, I pass the offering bag. This kid loads a 45, whatever the case is, Strenco in America. Like it introduces them to it. And like, of course they can lift. If they can run around on a soccer field, volleyball court, football field, tennis, whatever, they can totally lift weights. What are kids bad at? Listening and controlling their own body. So they struggle to understand movement. Now, obviously there's athletes, there's kids. We had like 3 kids under 10 at this last year's turkey pull, pulling some impressive numbers with like rigid extension back. So there's obviously anomalies, outliers to the general stuff, but most kids struggle to hold position. So if they can hold position with like a lightweight, do the lightweight. Often it's more like practice. Like the kid is practicing lifting weights. The kid is practicing, doing this thing. And then later it gets really hard. Very similar to a sport, right? Like a 5-year-old playing football is not learning a button hook. He's not learning a post route. You're like, go catch this ball. And he just takes off. But he's familiar with it. So I don't think there's a too young. I would say like, don't go crazy with your kids and like add 5 until they're post puberty. But yeah, I don't know. I kind of assume with my daughter, I'll have a basement, hopefully, maybe a garage. I always want a basement gym, so it's climate controlled, but a basement would be nice. But that like just a part of life, she sees this stuff. And then, over conversation, it can happen. But I think introduce your kids to it, but don't think about like training.
Don't force it on them.
Yeah. Well, it's not like don't force it on them. Like don't have them do it at all. I think it's like I have seen parents over the years who are like, my son keeps squatting 100 pounds over and over. I'm like, yeah, he's 9.
That's
he's 9. Yeah, that's great.
His body weight. Yeah.
Yeah. And they're like, well, I want him to squat 200. I'm like, he's 9. So there's like definitely a thing to manage there, but
wait 9 years.
Wait 9 years. Yeah. No, I mean, I think most 13, 14-year-olds, it kind of like varies when kids hit that stuff.
We're all different. Yeah.
Yeah, we're all different. Some of us are manufactured in Texas.
No, I think that's a good point. You see it in other sports too, like parents who just like want their kid to be good at soccer.
Yeah.
And then they just like get burnt out by, I don't know. By the time they're 13, they're done with it. So
yeah,
I get it, man. Yeah. It just kind of ease them into it. Just, I think it's watch me do this and kind of set an example is kind of what you're saying. And then over time, they'll probably get into it themselves.
Yeah.
No, that's a good point, man.
Show the benefits.
That's true.
We want to hit another slide before we get the guest on here.
Yeah, I can always hit another slide. You took, or one, you brought up Audiogram, and did you take an Audiogram and TBI test recently?
Yeah, I took both. I think, let's hit that right now. I'm just going to tell the guests 5 minutes. Let me just tell them real quick, the major equal rank. Okay. Here. So let me start with you. Audiograms and TBIs. TBIs is not the name of the test, but I'll get to why I got there. But you've taken an audiogram.
I've taken an audiogram. I'm so bad at it.
I'm so bad. I love that we think it's like a skill. Like,
it is.
So can you explain the process a little bit? Because a lot of people probably haven't.
You go in. So audiogram, especially in artillery, you do this a lot, and you sit down and they test your hearing multiple times throughout your career to see how much worse it's gotten. Because usually with artillery, it gets a lot worse really quickly. Like loud you probably noises. Can't hear out of one of your ears, right?
Right one.
Yeah, right one. So what they do is at the beginning, they set a baseline, like right when you come to the Marine Corps. And you go in and you sit down and you put headphones on, kind of like Grant swearing. And they'll play.
Except from 1964.
Oh, yeah, super old. Yeah, and they'll play the faintest beep. And some are loud, some are louder than others, some are very faint. And then you sit there and you have a button, you're holding it. Every time you hear a beep, you click it. And they do that throughout your career a couple times. And the reason I'm so bad at it is because I'll sit there with my eyes closed and I hear faint beeps. And the people are always like, stop clicking the button. Like nothing is playing right now. I'm like, I can't swear or something.
So to explain a little even further in depth, so I hadn't taken one since I left active duty in 2019, and that friend of mine that's deploying has to take one before he deploys. And so I was like, you know what? I'll do this with you. And so you walk into the room and it's 4 Marines at a time, and it's like vertical coffins. So it's like a door. It's like a refrigerator, actually.
Okay.
And there's like a little chair in it, and there's windows on both sides, or on one side. Or both sides. Yeah. So you can see the person next to you. So I go in and like you open the door and they're like in the person delivering the audiogram, like yes, in artillery, I've probably done this is probably my 6th one over 13 years, but they act like you do it every day. So they're like booth 2 and like you open the door and I'm like, okay, I guess I sit here. And then I'm like looking, and there's like cords on the floor, and I look over. There's a newly promoted corporal next to me, and he's like, dude. I'm like, and I like hold up the little clicker button. He's like, oh. So he like holds it up, and then like he puts it on, like blues on his right and it's supposed to be on his left. It's labeled, but you know, and so like we put him on, and then he's like looking at me, and he's like, now what, sir? I'm like, now you stare at me. And he like thinks I'm serious. So he's like staring at me, like thinking I'm going to like give him the commands. And it's like, this is an audio test. When you hear a beep, push the button. And it just cuts off. So I just keep staring at him. And then he realizes that I was messing with him. So he like turns his back to me. But it's exactly as Trey said. It's like,
yeah.
And then you're just sitting there and you hear nothing. So I failed.
How gone's your right ear? Is it just like?
So I asked that specific question. I said, like, is my right ear that bad? And they said, well, it's way worse than when you started. And I was like, well, cool. But like, how much hearing do I have in it? So I don't know. They actually called me back in for further testing. The guy was also super like, well, some people are really good, like intelligent of reading lips or like understanding, you know, human movement.
Thanks.
But you should definitely have a hearing aid. I was like, okay, thanks.
Cool. What'd you say?
Yeah. What? So audiograms, and then the brain test is what I call it. It's called like AHMS, AMS. I don't even know what it stands for.
Is it for TBI?
Yeah, it's for like, it's a brain. I like my name, brain test. So it's like, here's a bunch of numbers associated with an object. It's like 1 is a triangle, 2 is a infinity symbol, 3 is a square, 4 is an equal sign, 5 is a whatever. And so you see it, and then you just have 2 answers, like left is yes or no, and right is no or something. And so you go through that test and you just do it, and like you're just getting through. And then it goes like the next test, and it looks like a Tetris board, and it's like shapes. Mm-hmm. And so they'll show it to you, and they'll pull it away, and then you'll just see like a blue screen for like 5 seconds. Mm-hmm. And then 2 things will pop up, and then you have to click which one you had seen last. And so you go through the whole thing, and you're supposed to, and it says like answer quickly and accurately. And so you just like, you go through, but like the real test, I've taken it now 3 times, but I forget it. I've forgotten every time. I've always said that every time I take this, I forget it. Then at the end, the only test that mattered was the numbers and shapes from the beginning. So it's like, and there's some of the tests in the middle are, if it's over 5, push the right button. If it's under 5, push the left button. It'll be like 9 minus 4 plus 6.
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
Oh, 11.
Right. And so like,
see how I stalled there?
Some of them hit instantly though, and you click it. And then some of them you're like 1 minus 10 plus 8. Wait, what?
Yeah.
And then, but none of that matters. And then at the end, they're like, is 4 a triangle or an equal sign? And you're like, I don't know. But you feel super dumb. So anyway, there was one Marine in there. I won't say his name. And you go in, and it's 2 computers facing 2 computers. And people may be in different like portions of the test. So I'm outside. There's a bunch of guys in line. I have to go to a brief. So I cut the line because I'm a major and a jerk, And I'm like, hey, I got to go now. I'm like, how long does this take? And a Lance Corporal was like, well, sir, some people it takes 20 minutes. Some people it takes like an hour. I was like, wait, why? They're like, well, if you fail, you have to do it again. And I was like, okay. So I go in, and my XO is like right across from me. And the same corporal that was next to me in the audiograms to my right, there's a Lance Corporal like top right at the table. And I can tell he's frustrated. So I'm just like being funny, talking like I shouldn't. I'm like, oh, triangle 4, blah, blah, blah. And then like whenever I have a blank screen, it's like loading because it's the government. I'm like, how long you been in here, Marine? He's like, I'm taking it for my 3rd time. I keep failing. And I'm thinking like,
strong, baby.
I'm thinking like, this is a baseline test. Like, how do you fail? So anyway, he gets through before I'm done. And the Air Force guy comes in, and he's like, you ring a bell when you're done. So they didn't come in. And he's like, all right, you're done. He's like, you can go. And the Marine's like, did I pass? And he goes, no, but this is what's going to be entered in your record. And like the other 3 of us.
That's rough. That's rough. Yeah.
Poor guy. All right, let's get this guy on here.
All right, man. Tim, what's up, man?
Hey, how are you guys doing?
Doing well. Dude, this is the best audio we've had in a while.
Wait, mic check. Tim Bane. How we doing?
Good. How are you doing? Thanks for having me on.
His audio is great.
It's the best, man.
Dude, do you want to be a co-host?
I've been saying, haven't I been saying that a couple of times? You guys need somebody to make jokes in the background, sound effects, and things like that.
Someone actually intelligent. Yeah.
Crushing it. Welcome to the show. Major Timothy Bane, graduated the Citadel, native, will we say, of Hanover, Mass? No, a little Virginia time in there, right? Yeah, every good mass hole spends some time in Virginia. But yeah, he's in the Army. Long-time listener, first-time caller. I've gotten away from introducing people because like the Marines just like start reading their profile on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And then lately a few people have been saying, why don't you introduce your guests? So today I'm going to give it a shot. Tim Bane met in 2006, knob year at the Citadel, both in Delta Company, Delta Frat. And I don't know, I found out he was a Bruins fan and he made me a Bruins fan. We were both already Patriots fans, and Bruins were good back then. Long live Tim Thomas. And good friend of mine came home to South Carolina a few times, and then traveled in the Army. As the military takes you, it just takes you away. And so he's a guy that you keep up with. I know he's got children. I know he has a wife named Anna, and I know he's got a couple dogs. But he's a guy that really, if a Boston sports team makes the playoffs, we're talking. And outside of that, he doesn't care about my life at all. And
it's the glue that holds a friendship together.
But it's a good glue.
Yeah,
Am I right or wrong, Tim?
No, you're 100%. And it's the time that I really start caring about Boston sports at this point in my life is when they make the playoffs, really. And it's really just one team, it's the Bruins. I know growing up, I was a Patriots fan. Having that childhood with Tom Brady, I mean, you couldn't have asked for much better. But ever since then, I think ever since he left, I haven't fallen off and being a fan. So
you would be okay if like the Patriots, the Red Sox all had losing records if that meant the Bruins are going to win the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, there was nothing better than those
True
years.
Fan, I love that. Yeah,
leading up, I think it was the 2010s around the time frame when the Bruins were marching to the Stanley Cup. Tim Thomas was in the net.
Was that 08 when we won?
I think it was 11 if I remember correctly. And then we went again.
Is that when y'all won everything?
What's that?
Is that when y'all won everything? I feel like there was a couple years where it was just like every sport.
So the Red Sox were 08. Yeah, I think you're right. I think it was 10 or 11.
Yeah.
But Thomas had a shot a few years there. Yeah.
Yeah. And he really carried them through. Since they haven't they've had some good goalies since then, but they're just none that can really carry them through the playoffs, the grind, and the Stanley Cup. So I know they just signed. Go ahead. Yeah.
No, I was going to say it's interesting because the last 3 seasons since Chad Montgomery got there, now fired, they've just come out and they get you so pumped. And it's funny, and we'll talk about this later, but our sponsor, BW Tax, always says the regular season and playoff hockey are two different things. Yeah. He's like, they're two different things. And so, they won more games last year than any team in the NHL ever. And they just like bomb out in the playoffs. But I don't know. It's coach is fired. I don't know. Who do we keep? Linus, Olmark, or do we kept Swayman?
Swayman.
Yeah.
I think
University
you would,
Maine.
I mean, you would know more than I would at this point. Grant's more of a Bostonian or Massachusetts than I am at this point.
That's not true.
Yeah.
That's not true.
But would you say, is the Bruins like, how like Alabama and then you have like your blue bloods of like college football, you have, would you call Bruins like I don't know, like a blue blood of the NHL?
Yeah, I think
you might be biased. I don't know if you take off your Bruins hat.
I think if you mean like blue bloods, like blue collar, or
I would say more of just like Yankees. When I think baseball, like Yankees come to mind, right? Mm-hmm. When I think football,
that's sad.
I know, but it's like that's what everyone thinks about it. Or when you think soccer, you think of like Manchester United. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like it's Bruins. I'm in Texas, man. I don't know that much about the NHL. Would you say the Bruins weren't they one of the originals? And
yeah, I think the original.
Did I make that up?
No, I think they were Bruins, Flyers,
like 4 or 5.
Original 6 is what it's called.
6.
Yeah, Bruins, Flyers.
So I would call them. Yeah, they're blue blood.
Yeah.
Well, let's see if we can get that. Bruins, Flyers, Blackhawks.
Is there a Canadian team?
I think Blue Jays,
Red Wings.
And there's one
I
more.
want to say the Rangers, but I'm not sure.
Well, we got to look it up for the listeners. Someone will roast me if I got the Canadian team wrong. We used to have. Go ahead.
Hanover? Is that where you're?
Yeah, Hanover.
Is that close to Boston?
Yeah, it's about 15 miles south of Boston, suburbs, South Shore area.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah.
And
Maple Leafs was right. 6 is Montreal Canadiens. Anyway.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, explain to him where you're from. This guy's from Texas. He thinks everything revolves around the Alamo. We'll get into the Civil War later, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm from Hanover, 15 miles south of Boston. It's the suburbs, beautiful area. I haven't come back home too often, but I'm trying to think of other towns in the area. I mean, it was mostly, we're probably about 30 minutes from Plymouth, Massachusetts, along the way. It's where a lot of my family lives right now. But my whole family's up in Massachusetts is kind of split into, I guess there's really 4 regions, I guess, kind of talk about. There's Cape Cod, there's Western Mass, and then there's the North Shore and South Shore. And so I'm from the South Shore, and that's predominantly a lot of my family's from the North Shore, but everyone's kind of moved around since then. So.
What's your accent?
Do you think I have one?
So I actually think you sound more like Casey Affleck right now than you ever have.
Okay. Yeah. So my parents definitely have an accent.
Could be Bill Burr.
I've heard I sound like more like Ray Romano than anything.
Oh, okay.
He's not even from Boston.
Yeah, exactly. It comes out every now and then. I say saw or SAR instead of like I saw them. I don't have like car or anything like that. I just say car, but I think
you could lay it on though.
What do you call the thing you pull out that you keep clothes in that's inside your dresser?
The drawer.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's pretty non.
That was on purpose. Yeah,
he thought about that one.
Yeah, he had to think. He knew. He's like, I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it right.
We'll get it to come out. Well, welcome to the pod. We often call this pod the OK Podcast, where it's Grant's friends and D-list celebrities. And I think you check both of those boxes. So no, I'm kidding. I have some questions from our sponsor, particularly for you. But first, I mean, I know you're an Intel guy, but, and because I'd love to catch up and I'm not exactly sure, but like, where are you at in your career? What are you doing right now? How much longer you got? Like, you don't have to tell us about Ranger School. I know it was tough, but just like where are you at?
Tabbed up, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. I have not been to Ranger School, but I've been in the Army for about 14 years. Branched originally military intelligence career field, coming right out of the Citadel. That's what I originally commissioned into. I'm a major right now. I'm currently stationed at Fort Knox, Kentucky, so about 45 minutes from Louisville, Kentucky. And I'm at
on the OK Podcast, we call it Louisville.
Louisville. You're right. That's it. That is how you call it. I'm at Army Human Resources Command, so I've kind of looked up to try and explain what that is. So I'm a career manager right now. So what the Army does is basically, instead of having, basically I manage kind of the orders on. It would be the equivalent of you guys like your monitor or a detailer in the Navy. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, is that like a B billet that you're at right now, or
it's kind of it's like a broadening assignment? I think what we call it. It takes me out of my original kind of cohort or career path and puts me on this track where I kind of manage. And my particular career field right now is in strategic intelligence. So it's a different branch from or it's a different concentration within military intelligence. We have essentially 2 sets of MI officers. We have your all source intel officer, and then you have your strategic intel officer. So we pick up those officers probably about their field grade time. So they're majors or senior captains, and they really serve at like the strategic level. As the name
says, like Pentagon jobs,
defense intelligence agency, interagency, joint environment, and there's only about 300 of us.
And you're placing them like you're like so. The Marine Corps monitor means you're the guy looking over a subset of a type of Marine or soldier, and you're deciding where they go. That you're that guy.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Would you probably do a little bit different than the Marine Corps now, where where they used to do it was I would do the decision, like kind of stratify talent, top third, middle third, bottom third. But now everyone kind of goes into what's called a marketplace. And it's a two-way marketplace where units and officers kind of get to interview and kind of compete they get to choose who they want to hire.
Oh, that's actually pretty cool.
Yeah. So it's an Army kind of brought it up.
It's like a business.
Yeah, it's absolutely. And you got to put a resume, you got to interview. You kind of rack and stack your preferences in the units, and you try and get a 1-to-1 match. So they've taken out the career manager's role in a lot of that. So a lot of my role is advisement, but I do cut the orders and for those officers, and they do a lot of career advisement. A lot of the time, my job is focused on officers that have emergencies coming up with family considerations, or we call it married couples, or just anything that comes up in terms of career. We have boards, promotion boards, all sorts of stuff. So totally out of my lane. When I first got into the job, I was like, I don't know what I got myself into. But I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed it now. I enjoyed the kind of the management side. I do not miss. I do have a passion for intel, but I have not missed it since leaving.
Yeah.
Prior
How
to
long
that,
have you been in that?
This job right now.
Yeah.
I've been in for about. I got here in May, so about 6 months. I've been doing.
Oh, okay.
the job.
So fairly new. Yeah.
And then,
you were going to say prior to that?
Yeah, prior to that, I was in a traditional strategic intel position. I was down in Tampa for about 2.5 years. I was at CENTCOM headquarters, working out of their J2 shop, their intel section.
Cool town. I like Tampa.
Yeah, it was a good time. It was pretty busy, obviously, with everything kind of going on in the Middle East during that time frame, but very action-packed. I got to do everything that I wanted to do as an intel officer. So I was kind of ready to move on and do something else. And that's what this job popped in. And not something we were too excited about. We were looking to actually go to Germany for a little bit, but then we were convinced to come over to Fort Knox. So,
yeah. How do you like Kentucky?
Oh, I love it. Honestly, I love it. I love it a lot. The people are very friendly. It's beautiful up here. We're in like northern Kentucky. So Kentuckiana, I guess you can say. And so just people are, one thing about Kentucky too, is that people make you feel like you belong here, I think. And there's a lot of people, especially along the border region here, there's a lot of transient in Louisville, a lot of farmland. It's the largest beef producing state east of the Mississippi, I believe. So tons of farmland.
That's what I'd say. Oh, east of Mississippi.
Yeah, east of Mississippi. Texas, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Would you agree that Kentucky is where the South meets the Midwest?
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And so I think that's why I love it here. I mean, I love this region, Kentucky, Tennessee, West Virginia, because there's a little bit of that
Carolina.
Midwest. South Carolina, yeah, I do listen. a little bit of Midwest feel. People are very friendly, and the Southern feel, or I guess that conservative nature, conservative cultural feel here.
You don't have to tell us how you voted. We already know.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. I got my hat right here. So.
Oh yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Supporter.
Yeah. So.
I would explain outside of his military career. Like, I'm a Southerner, but a New Englander, like, at heart. And I think Tim is a Northerner, but like a Southerner at heart. Like you love like the just like, hey, how you doing?
Yeah.
Nice to see you. Like, come on into church, sit down. Here's
you dropped a y'all.
Here's an apple pie.
Well, yeah, I mean, so first time I met Grant, I was obviously at the Citadel. Went to his house, and I mean, his parents were a huge part of my life, and Grant was a huge part of my life and lead me to faith in Christ. But we had a southern meal, and it was sweet tea. It was like boiled cabbage with some. It was either I call it shrimp and dumplings, but you guys call it frogmore stew. But I think is what you call it. But it was just great.
In South Carolina, we just call that dinner.
Dinner, yeah.
Actually, we call it supper. To be fair, but go ahead, yeah.
But yeah, fried okra. It was introduced to all of that. So, but the Citadel, Grant took me under his wing. I mean, there was most of our company there was I felt like Sumter, South Carolina. It was like more than 50% of the company. And a lot of people were from South Carolina anyways. And there were a few of us from the North. And I think the Northerners are kind of looked like as weirdos. Why would you come to this school and things like that? And we are a little bit different. But
fair question.
Yeah.
It's a fair question. Yeah.
But Grant kind of took me under his wing while I was there. I don't know why, but
because you were a Bruins fan.
Yes, yeah. So
Grant has low standards. So
yeah.
He took me. He did the same for me. So
yeah. It was great. Introduced me to Southern culture. I remember we went to University of South Carolina football game. I was always wearing seersucker stuff. I was always like way overdressed. Just like trying hardcore to fit in, and it stood out. I guess.
That's awesome.
But, so,
do you remember?
Did they win?
Do you remember what game we went to?
Arkansas.
Yeah, we did win that, right?
I was about to say you probably did.
I fell asleep, but they did win. Yeah. So
that was around. Darren McFadden might have been there. I can't remember.
I think that was the Darren McFadden years. It would have been like 09 or 08, but
you might have just missed him. I can't remember.
Okay. So Army's going well. You're at year 14. You can't really afford not to stay in now.
Yeah.
Like you're kind of stuck.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. So I have this friend of mine that did 9 years active duty and then went in the reserves for 4 years. So now he's at his 13-year mark. And he also feels like he has to stay. He lives in Greenville, South Carolina right now. He has a podcast. He makes gym equipment. And his wife has a lot of like questions of like, how long are we going to do this? And I'm just like, well, what I tell my friend is like, you kind of have to do it at this point. So I say twofold. One, like, how is moving, like, cover the ages of your kids? I think I know in my head, but I'll let you say, but cover the ages of your kids. How is moving all the time? And then, like, as a dad, we're all dads here. You go through like this, like, man, this is the best thing ever. But then you also get involved in your military work. And you're like, man, these 18-year-olds also need leadership. And I know your current role is not, necessarily dealing with that, but I don't know, like, how does the family feel about like riding to 20? Are you 20 and out? Like, what's the horizon look like? And like, how have you made that work as long as you have? Because you got married 2 years out of, like, you got married as a first lieutenant?
It's almost right out of the Citadel. So
second.
We got married in 2011, deployed 6 months later, 2012.
Yeah. That's great for marriage and family life. I've always said that.
No, thanks for asking. So it's actually been front and center of our lives as of late. It's been difficult. The more moves that later on in your career, the frequency of them, I feel like they pick up because I'm really only averaging about 2.5 years in assignment, and then I'm moving on. I can say that it's been difficult on my wife. She's fully supportive of the whole situation. And as the kids get older, their ages, right now, my son Timothy is age 9. My daughter is 7, Charlotte. It's been difficult. This past move coming up here was the most difficult for them to kind of adjust to. And so to answer your question, I'm probably looking at about 20 and out. And that's what I've given my wife kind of as the mark on the wall. But I have kind of said, okay, at that point, the kids are going to be in college. How are we going to kind of fund, or if they want to go to college, but how are we going to kind of fund that? The beautiful thing about the Army right now as an officer is that you can work off of one salary. And my wife has been able to homeschool. We homeschool our kids because of all the moving around that's been the only consistency that we've been able to have. So it has been difficult. I mean, it comes to a point where every 3 years we're looking to we kind of get antsy. We're looking to move, or at least I am. But I know this time around it's been front and center. My wife has been dealing with some health stuff as a result of kind of, moving can be a traumatic experience for families. And, in your, depending on where you end up, you have to start over find community, find a church, find new medical services or healthcare, and that's difficult as a whole. So I think the way I've kind of planned out right now, we do one more move, and then that will probably be it.
That'll take you there.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it is. And I think it's like worth hitting on. And, we always joke that only my mom listens to this, but I will say going to the Marine Corps ball last weekend, a lot of military folks listen to this. We had, I say a lot. I just mean there are people in the military that listen to this, but no, it's not nothing, but it is a lot. Like moving, is a lot on its own. And then one deployment is enough to weather, and multiples more. And, I think as a young man, you think in the back of your mind, like, I'm going to do all this cool stuff and then I'll settle down. But then if you decide to go to 20, you find yourself like kind of where we are, and you active duty the whole time, even harder, but you're like late 30s or mid 30s or whatever you want to call it. And you're like, man, I still have to move every 2 years. And it's difficult, but, as we like to say on this show, we support the troops. Thank you for your service, Tim. But no, seriously. Yeah, no, but it is tough. And like, shout out to Anna for doing it all, because, I think it's, in a way, I think it's like much harder on the wives, because you do have like the camaraderie. Like, the reason this show exists is because I met Trey and Jeff as young lieutenants, and we like all hit it off, and it's not the same on the other side. You do have to find other things. Like, maybe you get fortunate, like, Abby, Trey's wife, has been real cool with D, and Kaylee's been great too, but like you do hit some of those, but it's not a guarantee. And so you have to find a church, you have to find a school, like you have to find other people. And I think it's like way tougher on the families. And so let me ask, well, you got married right out, so I'll just tell you this and then you can laugh at me. But when I was a lieutenant, I got to 5'11", and I remember checking in, they were like 90 days you'll be in Afghanistan, or 100, whatever it was. It was either 190 days or 90 days. I can't remember. And I remember being like, okay, let's go. And then I remember doing all this training, and like, you want to go die, right? You're like, you don't want to die, but you're like, I'm ready. Like, I've read Nathaniel Fick, One Bullet Away. I'm ready. Like, let's go. And I remember like sergeants, staff sergeants, corporals, hey sir, like, I can't make this exercise. My wife's having a baby. And I'm like, suck it up. You joined the Corps. And now I like view that so much differently. And I've actually called a few Marines, and I'm like, hey man, I'm really sorry. I had like no perspective. But that's you don't think about the family part. Yeah. The Marine Corps, would you have a baby, they would have issued it to you.
No, you bring up a good point. I mean, in my role right now, I obviously do a little bit of life coach with officers that are from everywhere from captains all the way up to lieutenant colonels. And the number one factor that I see officers get now is stability. All right. And so,
that's why I got out.
Yeah. And, especially the lieutenant colonel years, you can continue on to about 30 years as lieutenant colonel, but but you have that opportunity up until that point. It's been a rat race. It's been an up and out system. But now you you make it to lieutenant colonel, or you're promotable, and now you kind of take a step back and say, okay, what do I actually want to do? Especially at that 15-year mark. And you have the option at that 20-year to vote with your feet. And I can talk about the Army right now. I think they're in a tight spot with officer retention, and they are very much in a retain mode. So if we have an officer that comes on the net and says, I want to drop my retirement paperwork or my separation paperwork or something like that, we have incentives to try and get them to stay, to get them maybe to the location. But more often than not, it's not even that. They just want to they just don't want to move again. It's not about where they want to go. They're just like, I'm good with where I'm at, family situation with spouses being able to work, in order to kind of keep up with this economy. Spouses have to work a lot of things, and, their career field takes just as much precedent over an officer these days. So times are changing. And so, it seems like we're marching towards more of a war footing based on everything that's kind of going on in the world, and who knows what's going to happen. But, we would have a hard time, I think, turning the thicket back on of like trying to mobilize everybody. And, it would probably revert back to what you were saying. Like, the Army, if they issued, if you wanted kids, they would issue one, but that's not where we're at right now. So
definitely not. Yeah. No, everyone's on the other side. I mean, I think that's like for that buddy of mine that won't be named. Yeah. I mean, I think that's why his reserve unit's getting called up is because retention's that bad.
Yeah.
And I can't speak. I mean, the National Guard's its own things, supporting the states. Yeah. We need to get into states' rights. We need to get Civil War stuff. We will. Don't worry. We're about to make it real fun.
All right, good.
But but like that's its own thing. But you also have the Army Reserve. But what I've always seen, and I mean, my career's not that long, but since 2011 is, hey, this unit that's active duty is short like 4 of this type of Marine. Yeah. Reach in the reserve, grab 4, plug and play. And now we're mobilizing and activating entire units.
Yeah.
And it's the retention. It's I mean, I don't know what the answer is. I mean, I know that in the SMCR world, particularly on the enlisted side, guys will come in, they'll enlist, they'll get assigned to Fort Dix, New Jersey, Seal Beach, California. They live within 100 miles and they'll be in that unit for 10 years. And I've never seen cohesion so tight. I mean, it's like the tightest you've ever seen, because it's not just, hey, I'm going to leave in 2 years. It's, I'm here for as long as I decide to do this. And I know everyone's wife knows everyone, and it's super tight. I remember we had a guy that took his life in 2020, staff sergeant of mine. And it was during all the nonsense of everything locked down. And so I just I texted one Marine staff sergeant and I said, hey, my warehouse in California is open at this time for anybody that wants to come by. 200 Marines showed up.
Yeah.
And because like that's the kind of cohesion you built, like when you give stability, right? Because people know everyone. And so, it's an interesting thing. And at the same time, like, you got to go places, you got to do things. Yeah. And a lot of times the move is tough, and then you do the move and then you're like, man, I'm such a better Army major having done this thing completely, like so it's difficult, but I think the family nucleus is the important part. And, it makes sense that that's what you're seeing, that as people are later in their career, they're like, I'd rather hang out with my 6-year-old than, go do whatever. Okay. So before we get into some stuff I have, you're at year 14?
Yes. Yeah.
You're in zone for Lieutenant Colonel, or is that coming up soon?
A couple more years.
A couple more years. Okay. So you're very similar to Marine Corps timeline. So you get Lieutenant Colonel, you ride to 20, you tell Anna 20 and done, I'm done. You get a cool shadow box that you don't know what to do with because the Army people give it to you. And you feel like this gift looks like it's a funeral gift, but I'll take it. Okay. And then like, are you going to the FBI? Who's the next Whitey Bulger? Yeah. Are you going to go back into government work, or like, what are you thinking?
That's a great question. I think the easy button would be, to try and pursue something intel related in the government, because that's what my career field is at. But I don't know what I don't know what I want to do. I know I want to do something different. I know I've kind of liked the management side of the house with what I'm doing right now. It's just because it's completely different. One, I'm not in a skiff as well. And like I said, I got to do kind of everything I wanted to ever do as an intel officer in my last assignment at CENTCOM. I mean, and so there's no hot job out there that I'm thinking about in the world. I mean, honestly, the thing that I really long for is the stability, is to be able to, settle down in a location, be involved in the community, whether that's a lacrosse coach or something like that. I don't know, but that's really what I kind of long for. And, I do want to be able to work. If you get out of 20, I'll be 43 years old. I still want to kind of contribute to society in some work capacity, I guess. I just don't know what that is. Right now, I would tell you it would not probably be intel or a government job. I did look into FBI at some point. At some point, I was thinking about getting out of my career. It didn't work out. And so the federal law enforcement, which was crushing, because Grant knows my father was in federal law enforcement. So
he's an FBI agent, right?
He was U.S. Marshal Service.
U.S. Marshal, that's right.
Yeah, and I saw
Raylan Givens. All right.
Yeah, I saw the Army as a means to an end. I was seriously considering about getting out. Had my paperwork ready to go and applied to all these agencies, and the door was shut one by one, and so that was a clear indication that this is not the route that I wanted to, that the Lord was leading me to. So I decided to stay in, and for the better. There's a couple of options. Grant, we've talked about. I was supposed to go teach at West Point in the military history department. And I ended up turning that down at the last minute. I was kind of like a downward spiral of like, I don't know what to do. And then I went to work at the Pentagon, and I was one there to watch for, just, monitoring world events and advising Army senior leaders on kind of what was going on. And I got to see the intel world, and that kind of offered me this opportunity to look into the strat intel world, strategic intelligence, because I wasn't in a Humvee with a map board, battle tracking stuff, just exhausted and cold and wet and tired. I got to see actual real intel, I guess, and see how it works. It was a little bit more of a comfortable lifestyle, but also a lot more job satisfaction, I think, with some of the stuff that I was interested in, particularly what was going on in the Middle East at the time, and Russia and things like that. So, sorry, I'm not sure if I answered the question. I feel like I went off on a tangent, but
no, I love it. I love it.
It's essentially you're kind of like all of us. You don't know what you want to do when you grow up.
Yeah, so exactly.
It's fair enough, man.
Yeah.
I feel like that's very normal.
Yeah.
No, I think it's tough, and I don't think anyone thinks that. And I think you turn the corner at I guess most officers around 8-9 year marks, depending on your commissioning platform. And at that point, if you're doing good, which I know you were, based off, how you did at school, it's like everyone's just telling you, stay in. And then so you stay in, and then all of a sudden, I think it's not a midlife crisis, but it's like you find yourself at this like 13, 14 year mark, and you're like, wow, like these things don't matter as much as I thought they did. My family matters more. At the same time, like now I have all this experience, and I see like the institution going a different direction, and it should go the other direction. Yeah. And so you have this like internal battle. No, I think it's an interesting thing. And I always tell Marines when they want to get out, and I still tell them this, everyone trying to tell you to stay in has never gotten out.
Yeah.
And I think that's like a really important thing for people to think about. I generally think if you do one enlistment, you should do two for the enlisted side, or if you're an officer, you should do in the Marine Corps. After your first one, you do a B billet, which Army calls it way smarter. Marines are too dumb to understand that's a broadening experience. So we just say B billet, and they're like, yeah, B billet. But like, to show you more of I always tell people like, hey, you spend all that time in training, officers, you spend, like if you're an artillery officer, you spend 2 years in training. It's like, don't flush that down the toilet. Like see, what's out there maybe. Or like you have Trey who got out after it. He's like, hey, I'm getting out anyway. And then I look at him and I'm like, dude, you're like stable. You live like my wife told my friend that's deploying. She was like, look, after this, can we please just buy a house and like hang out?
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, that's coming, because it's tough. But it's a thing that no one knows. And if you stay in, you don't know anything different. And so when someone goes to get out, you just say, well, this is what I did, so you should do the same thing, or, slight variation of it. But anyway, that's the military stuff. Well, I'm sad because I really thought you were going to go and like find all those Whitey Bulger bodies as an FBI agent, crack the cold case, and John Connolly's still alive, but I guess you're not.
So on the intel, man, so like, did you get designated that coming out of the Citadel? Like, how does it, because like we go through TBS and we find our MOS, like, did you find out like right out of college?
You pretty much, It's, after going to our camp, it's nowhere near TBS or anything like that. You
allegedly
we put in our preferences, and based on how high you score on the OML, kind of get what you get. So I think I know one thing that's different about Army intel and Marine Corps intel is one, I really like how the Marine Corps do it, at least for their ground intel officers. And correct me if I'm wrong. With they send their ground intel officers to infantry officers course, I believe, or sniper school and things like that.
The ground intel, yes.
Yeah.
The SIGINT and the other guys go to their own school, I believe.
Yeah,
that's correct.
So I thought that was always a great model. Especially because intel it's all about having that relationship with that commander who's often a maneuver guy or gal. So in the Army intel world, we don't have, like the Marine Corps has air intel, SIGINT, and things like that. We don't have that aspect. We have all sorts of intel officers, but then they have skill identifiers that, like, I have a skill identifier, I have a background in signals intelligence, but I'm primarily an all source guy, or I have a background in GeoInt or HUMINT or things like that. But first and foremost, you're like almost like every Marine's a rifleman. Well, every MI officer in the Army is first an all source guy.
Gotcha.
And so later on in your career, if you want to go into the strat intel field, that's also available to you, which a lot of MI officers do, because there is a lot of job satisfaction with the work that they do. Like I said, you're working at that kind of joint strategic environment. A lot of folks coming into the intel world come to find out that that's not actually what they are doing. It's a lot of field training, exercises, staff work, MDMP, things like that. That just the way they kind of advertise it is not always lines up with reality. And so the strat intel field is kind of what I think what a lot of folks think that they were going to get when they first join MI, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I kind of like the way that's organized, though, because like you generally have an idea of how all the intels kind of tie in together.
Yeah.
Versus I think the Marine Corps is kind of like very what's the word I'm looking for? Compartmentalized.
Asking the wrong guy.
Yeah, I know. They do their human and then that gets fed up. It seems like they're very good at that one thing that they do, but kind of tying them all in together. I'm sure they have some sort of training.
Yeah.
But that's cool way to do it. But all right, that's the only question I had.
So Tim, I was going to ask you, and I'll tell you why I asked this later, but how good are you at PowerPoint?
Well, it depends. I mean, I guess, yeah. So that's, I think the funny thing about MI officers is they're staff officers, right? And so you've got to be great
from the time they were a lieutenant.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so I remember when I first went to military intelligence, the basic officer leaders course, I had no idea really about PowerPoint, but we had some prior enlisted folks that were with us, and they were like PowerPoint whiz because they were former MI enlisted, and they just knew how to do some stuff. And I just remember thinking, wow, but yeah, I would say I'm pretty. Although PowerPoint seems to like update these days, I like figuring out how there's all these new things on there. I'm just like, it's just getting so complicated.
So let me reframe this. How good are you? So like, there's like so many things, right? There's like call out slides where the slide looks the same, but you keep clicking it and different text pops up. But how good are you at like knowing what the commander wants to see? Or how good are you at seeing a brief and being like, nope, that thing's touching that color. That CUI thing at the bottom is too low. Bring it up an inch. Like, are you better at critiquing and sending the boys back to work, or are you more of like hey, let me just sit down and fix this real quick?
Yeah, 100%. Great question. I'm the latter. I'm not very good at critiquing. I've always been, and that's actually been one of my weaknesses, I think, is that my commander's always told me, he's like, hey, I don't need you to be like the senior analyst. I need you to be the manager. And but the thing about the intel world that I've kind of struggled with is, your guys that are in the S2, the intel shop, are doing a lot of the work. But for me, kind of, if I'm going to do the briefing, I need to actually have like hands-on. I'm that type
How
of
you
person.
build the slide is actually really important because like the way your eyes are going to go and read it. No, I agree. Yeah.
And so, where a lot of times in the field exercise, I end up doing a lot of the work because, you're the two and you want to be, have that relationship with the commander. And so that's just, I would say that's pretty common across the intel world right now, at least in the company grade years. As you kind of get up higher, you're obviously more of you're leading the MI enterprise, quote unquote, and you're less hands on, more directing. And but still, it is difficult. There's been a lot of twos that have been fired it's all comes down to that relationship that you have with the commander. And so understanding what his needs are, tailoring the intelligence to how he kind of conceptualizes the battlefield, things like that, all important. So I would say, to be honest, I think I picked the wrong career field. I think I would have been better in combat arms. I mean, there's some way smarter folks out there.
You'd be a great artillery officer.
Yeah, pull string, go boom, baby.
Exactly.
It's pretty easy.
And so that's what that's what the Army is. It's combat arms. Like it's infantry, armor, field artillery. And so you're an intel guy. You're almost alone and unafraid in those organizations. And so that camaraderie is sometimes missing. Because everyone kind of looks at it as the intel guy, right?
Right.
But I not that I have regrets, but if I would kind of go back and do it again, I'd probably do combat arms first and then go into
I get it.
Yeah.
Everybody wants that Ranger tab.
Yeah.
I get it.
Right.
Yeah. Rangers lead the way all the way. Yeah. What did they say at Fort Drum? They had a saying and it was like, they said on to glory.
Yeah.
And then the soldiers say climb to glory.
Yeah.
Or on to, and then you say what? Do you know? Have you been to Fort Drum?
I have not been to Fort Drum. Worked with folks at the 10th Mountain. I can't remember what they said.
Okay. Yeah, 10th Mountain. They say to the top.
Okay.
And so my dumb butt goes through there and I'm like, hey, here's my ID. And they're like, climb to glory. And I'm like, what? And he's like, excuse me? I'm like, no, what did you say?
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, I said, climb to glory.
Yeah.
I said, oh, okay. Why? He goes, well, it's our saying here, sir. I say climb to glory. You say to the top.
Yeah.
And of course, like I got a bus full of Marines and they're all like, sir, can you stop? I'm like, wait, can you try again?
Yeah.
And he's like, climb to glory. And I'm like, hang on. And I'm like, hey guys, when he says climb to glory, we all scream to the top.
Yeah.
I'm like, one more time. He's like, climb to glory. And the whole bus is like, to the top. And he's like, wow, sir, no one's ever done that. I was like, that's because you don't say it right.
Yeah.
You say climb to glory.
Right.
If they don't know what to say, you tell them to the top. Anyway, I digress.
If you don't know this, Grant, I've been thinking about this. I'm sorry if I'm interrupting, but
no, you're good.
at the Citadel, our junior
schedule.
year, Grant and I were supposed to be on cadre. But first semester, Grant, I think you were in an internship. And so I ended up having to become, Grant was going to become the cadre platoon sergeant.
It was you.
And so I ended up doing it in Grant's stead, but Grant would have been way better. I mean, Grant came back. No, you came back second semester and he was like a cadet private or whatever. And he led one of our runs and like, he was just so motivated, way fantastic. Everyone
Grant
loved
was
it.
just being Grant.
It was being Grant. Exactly. Yeah. And everyone loved it. And he was born and bred for that type of stuff.
So you're saying I should have been enlisted, but yeah. Hey, you're a terrible officer. You should have been a sergeant. Got it. Well, let's make it fun. So you're from Hanover, Mass.
Yeah.
Your wife is from Anderson or Spartanburg?
She's from Easley.
Easley. Oh, even better. Yeah. Okay. Up here in the upstate. So you're no stranger to the upstate. We're going to quiz you on that in a little bit. You spent some time because of your dad as a marshal in Virginia. Mm-hmm. You obviously went to college at the Citadel, which is strange to me as a Northern aggression guy, but people see the same thing for me. But like you could go anywhere. All the things that you gripe about the Army of, hey, I move all the time. Like right now, forget it's the Army. It's any corporation. They give you a job that you like, and they're like, you can live anywhere you want and take and raise your family. Where are you going?
So my heart leans towards Tennessee, although there's an asterisk with there. I've driven through Tennessee, but I've never really been in it.
It's a great drive. I'll tell you that.
And the reason is one, I think it's, obviously, It's a beautiful state. A lot of history. I'm a big history buff. It's, I think, cheaper cost of living to buy a house down there. A lot of military retire down there for obvious reasons. I just, for some reason, I just love this region of the country, all the way from, Kentucky, Tennessee, West Virginia. It's really interesting to me. So it would probably be Tennessee.
Okay.
Yeah.
And like hot seat, truth gun to your head, what city? Or not a city? What suburb? Can play that both ways.
Yeah. It's probably near the
Nashville
Chattanooga,
area. Right?
What'd you say, Chattanooga? Yeah.
I love Chattanooga.
Yeah, I'm a big Chattanooga and Knoxville fan in the suburbs. I also really like Nashville. I think you live like 20 minutes out of Nashville. Great spot to live. Yeah,
You can become a Predators fan.
Yeah, man, don't get me started about these Southern hockey teams, man. Like, there's nothing worse than the Bruins.
I just learned
losing.
Texas had one
last
year.
Yeah, and he texts me every time the Stars rout us. He's like, "Oh, the Stars win," and that makes me hate it more because I'm like, "You don't care. Like, you don't care."
I saw the Bruins fired their coach.
Yeah.
And I go, is that because they lost to the Stars?
Yeah, that's exactly what he said to me. Yeah. Okay.
Which was a legitimate question.
So the South. So you're not going to New England. Not even New Hampshire.
No.
Okay, got it. You're out. All right, cool.
I have a buddy who lives in New Hampshire, though.
Live free or die.
Yeah,
That's what I've
he's
always said.
A great guy. Loves it up there. He was in Massachusetts and moved up to New Hampshire, bought a house up there.
Is his name Ben Murphy?
It's so Ben Murphy's counterpart, Mike Lawler.
Even better. Yeah. Okay. All right. Are you sad that Tom Brady wasn't number 10? Because then all of his swag would have been TB10, Tim Bane, class of 10.
Oh, yeah.
Have you ever thought about that?
I have not thought about it.
Okay. I've thought about it for you. Yeah.
No, I'm not. So I love Tom Brady. I mean, I know he gets a lot of flack.
Who doesn't like greatness?
Yeah. It was great. It was great growing up to be with him. It was really sad to see him leave. There was that one year he was great and down in Tampa, and that was exciting to see because we were in Tampa at that time, I think.
Oh, nice.
So
you're one of those fans.
Like
Got it.
Reunion. So yeah, truth and advertising. I'm probably more of a Tom Brady fan than anything over the New England Patriots.
See, I still want Bill Belichick to go take over Navy football and bring him back to greatness with the veer. That's like my hope. But
or Citadel, right?
Even better. That'd be incredible. We're just happy we have 5 wins after 0 last year.
There you go.
Okay. I assume you've been to some live sporting events in New England. I know the answer to this. Like, I know you have been to. You've been to at least 5, I assume.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So give us a Power 5, Tim Bane, New England sporting events. You can go whichever way your brain works. I don't want to dictate your slide. We'd never dictate anyone's slide. You dictate your slide. You want to start at 5 and go to 1, but like top New England sporting events you've been to, and it might be a loss. And you were just like, hey, I went with Mike Lawler and it was great.
Yeah.
Or whatever the case is.
No, great question. So I think number 1 was obviously the Bruins, going to a Bruins live event. So I was not a hockey fan until I went to a Bruins event. I think it was in high school. Up until that point, my brother was the one that was the hockey fan. He played hockey early on in his years. I was more football. I could care less until I went to the Bruins. They were playing the Capitals. I saw Ovechkin kind of skating around. It was a 0-0 game all the way till the end. Tim Thomas was in net. And at the end, we were on the third period. We were on the Capital was on their goalie side. And the Bruins scored with like 3 minutes left. And the crowd just went nuts. And that was really it for me on the Bruins. That kind of sold me. I became like a diehard fan where I bleed black and gold at that point.
Okay.
The next
number 1 of your power rankings. Number 2.
Next number 2 was my parents went to Boston College. We grew up watching Boston College play hockey. My dad used to drive.
Soar Eagles.
Yeah, my dad used to drive the Zamboni in college.
That's pretty cool.
So we were huge hockey fans. Any really Boston College hockey sports team that we went, I remember one game they played the University of Maine. There was a guy skating to center down the ice, and Boston College player came and just absolutely just lifted him up and wrecked him, and the crowd just went wild. The third one would be probably another Boston College game against Notre Dame, and that was a night game live. Boston College ended up winning, and that was just
also hockey.
Oh, it's football. Sorry, football.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they are rivals, and so we used to go to Boston College football games.
Isn't everyone a rival of Notre Dame? To be fair,
yeah.
We played them this year. I don't even like them. Yeah.
4 and 5. I've only been to a New England Patriots preseason game, and so I couldn't list any of those out there. I'm trying to think. Honestly, the Red Sox games, we always had poor seats, or it was always raining or something like that.
Doesn't everyone have poor seats?
Yeah,
there's like no good seats in Fenway, but they're all great.
So there's nothing that stands out in my mind. I've been to a couple Celtics games, never could get into really the Celtics. So I'm really going to top off at like 3. And I could probably just add in
maybe South Carolina, Arkansas.
Yeah.
South Carolina, Arkansas. Okay, no, that's good. We got a couple Power Fives we're playing. I kind of like that you stopped at 3 there. Mm-hmm. So we're going to switch gears. Power 5, 1 to 5, start at 5, start at 1, Boston movies.
Okay. Boston movies. So 1, it's probably The Departed. I was just recently started doing CrossFit the other day, and I was just talking to a guy, and he just was like, we're talking about movies, because I went and saw Gladiator 2 recently. And it's out.
It's out.
It's out.
I didn't realize it was out. Is it good?
It's not good.
Okay.
Fantastic.
We'll get to that later.
Yeah. So we were just talking about how movies these days just seem to be not that great.
Let me pause you.
Yeah.
We saw 300 together, right?
I think so. Yeah.
And I fell asleep the whole movie. I did. We saw 300 together, and what's the movie about blood that's like 4 hours long?
There Will Be Blood.
Is it like a Western kind of deal?
The oil,
Daniel
the oil baron.
Yeah. It kind of looks like Wyatt Earp, but he's not.
Yeah, some consider like one of the best movies of all time.
Yeah, I fell asleep on that too.
Yeah. Well, it's a long movie.
Anyway, okay. So you saw Gladiator 2, you didn't like it, but top 5 Boston movies.
Top 5.
Your friend Departed.
The Departed. The Town is probably number 2.
Okay.
Gone, Baby Gone, number 3.
Yep.
I actually, this is a surprising one. Number 4 is I forget what it's called, but it's Mark Wahlberg. It's about the Boston Marathon bombings.
Not Independence Day.
No.
Patriots Day.
Patriots Day. Yep.
I really love that movie.
That's a good movie. Yeah.
And then I'm trying to think of another. Fever Pitch would be number 5 with I'm just
Over
kidding.
Good Will Hunting.
With Good Will Hunting. I never really kind of got into it as a whole.
Okay.
Are you Fever Pitch with the guy from the?
Yeah, I'm just kidding.
Well,
the talk show host
from about the Red Sox with Jimmy Fallon.
Jimmy Fallon. Yeah,
it's actually a good flick.
It is kind of a good flick. Yeah.
What's the one with the Whitey Bulger one?
Oh, that's Black Mass. But I'm really surprised that Tim didn't say Mystic River.
Oh, actually, I forgot about it. Actually, I just watched Mystic River probably about a few months ago. That's a great movie.
Every time I want to cry, I watch it.
It's no Fever Pitch, though.
Yeah, you're right. Exactly. Black Mass, the movie's not as good as the book, if you haven't read
Amen.
the book.
Okay.
Yeah.
Amen. Yeah. Well, which book?
Black Mass.
Black Mass. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I've read probably I've read more about Whitey Bulger than probably I should have. But yeah. But Black Mass is a good one. I like the one by the Boston Globe writers. I think it's called the Bulger Brothers. I'll take a photo and I'll make Jordy put it across the screen.
He loves when we do that.
He loves when we do
That's
that.
good.
Creates more work. Yeah, we like to create work. It's like when the commander's like, "Hey, Deuce, make the weather appear on the slide." And you're like, "Why?"
Yeah.
Not like zero additional. Yeah. Anyway, so we'll do that to him. Okay, so we got your top 5 New England games. All right, so slight change of gears. but while we're on power rankings, you are a history buff. You're an interesting bird to me because you side with Chamberlain.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you're a Southern sympathizer. You like Star of the West. Top 5 Civil War generals. And you can pick from either side. And you can pick God over country.
Yeah.
You can pick secession, whatever. Like if you were like, hey, I've studied all this. These are the 5 guys. And I'm saying it funny, but like seriously, like these are the 5 guys. These are my favorite because both.
If you get dinner with them.
Yeah. No,
like,
great question.
What's your top 5? Yeah.
So Jackson, number 1, without a doubt.
Okay.
He was, the Lord had to take him. Otherwise the South would have won.
We would have.
It's the number 2. I just read a book about George Gordon Meade. It's really his Gettysburg campaign. Meade gets a lot of flack throughout this time, and I really liked it. Was by Kent Masterson Brown, but basically he makes the argument that Meade actually did a very good job in managing the campaign for Gettysburg. So I would rank him up there pretty high. Obviously, I'd probably back him up to 3 and put Grant down as number 2 right now.
Not me for the listeners.
Ulysses
He means the general. Yeah.
A lot of confusion.
Longstreet is up there. I just read a biography about him. It's more of his political post-war and how he kind of corralled the South and helps the South kind of come back into the fold of the Union afterwards. I thought that was pretty honorable as a whole. It was really interesting to read. And then, I would have to say 5 is probably Chamberlain. So I didn't have Lee in there. I've read a few books about Lee.
I was about to ask you, but I like that you're ready.
Lee, my take on Lee, I don't judge these folks. I think that's what historians do. That's part of their craft is they'll make a judgment on them. And I just don't try and judge them based on today. But Lee, contrary to popular opinion, my opinion on Lee is that he was a great strategic leader. He saw kind of how the way the South needed to win the fight or win the war by obviously invading the North and having a decisive battle. Tactically, the way I've understood Lee put was that, yes, he understood tactics, but he had Jackson and Longstreet, his 2 war horses. And he didn't, until, early on, he would kind of allow them to really take on the tactical fight. And you can see that later on in the war where he had to kind of get more involved, especially the Gettysburg campaign. That's why you see some of the tactical mishaps that happened early on in that kind of campaign that eventually led to his defeat. Operationally, he's probably up there as a pretty good leader. He could have done probably more to kind of get logistics fed up to the Army of Northern Virginia by asking, the Confederate government there as a whole. But that's my take on Lee. So very, good strategic thinker. I know that's kind of contrary to opinion where Lee, a lot of people think Lee is a great tactician, but I think he's a very great strategic thinker versus the tactical side of things.
More of a rah-rah guy then, huh?
I like it. Book that you may not know, The First New Hampshire Battery, written by William Marvel. He wrote the 4-book series on Lincoln with the famous one that Professor Kyle Sinise, who we'd like to have on the show, used to talk about Mr. Lincoln Goes to War. But it's primarily about the New Hampshire Battery and Pickett's Charge, but it's written from the point of a New Englander saying, I thought that like the South was just trying to kill us. I didn't know the politics that were at hand. But Marvel, if you don't know William Marvel, he's from South Carolina, New Hampshire. Bachelor degree in history from Keene State College. This is a 122-page book. The First New Hampshire Battery. It's a lot about artillery, with a lot of like hidden messages, but good read. I think that's a good top 5 and like we got a lot of Southern listeners, and you kind of like you covered Lee without us asking. So that was good. Okay, let's see what else I got here on for you. Okay, I have a question. So Tim Bane, first time caller, long time listener. This podcast powered by the Strength Co. Long time supporter. Has bought a squat rack in the past, barbell, weights. Like doesn't ask questions, doesn't ask for a discount. Vets are the worst at that. I mean, like right now we're running a Black Friday sale. I mean, seriously, we're running a Black Friday sale. So at any time you can go to the bottom of the page, you click military, you log in with ID.me, you get a discount. Right now the discounts we're running are way bigger. You can't stack discounts. You get one or the other. And I'm dealing with zero customer service right now because everyone's like, wow, the Strength Co's throwing a sale. Fantastic. Except from vets. They're like, hey, I'm logged in at ID.me and I'm only seeing the Black Friday sale. Where's my additional percentage off? And I'm just like, there is no, like, right. you don't get both. But I say all that to say, there was a text message thread that may have been screenshotted and sent, and there was money that was sent to you for weightlifting equipment. And I give Trey some context. So BW, a good sponsor of the podcast. We're about to talk about him a lot in just a second. Tim, BW, and myself have a thread. It generally goes during sports season, and it was something about sports betting. And Tim like haphazardly like bet a money line, like by saying yes to someone on a thread. And so he sent it to us. And then there was also this, like in the screenshot, like someone paid him. I think her name was like Valerie, whatever her name was. I tried to find her on LinkedIn. I tried to find her on Facebook. I tried to find her everywhere and I couldn't find her. And she paid Tim $200 for weightlifting equipment. And I said, wait, did Tim sell off his Strength Co weights? And so I asked him, I said, what was this about? And I screenshotted, like zoomed in, and he said, I'll find out. And that's a good Tim Bane laugh right there. And we've never found out. So did you sell off some weights?
So yeah, I had to, we were over, when we moved, we were overweight. And so,
not your bodies, your vehicles.
And we weren't going to have an area where to put it. And so I did sell some to the SOCOM Sergeant Major, Command Sergeant Major out there. He was, I'll tell you a story. I was selling the stuff and he came up to me and he was looking at the weights. He's like, I know Strength Co. I love Strength Co. I've got some stuff in my, he's like, I don't need any more Strength Co. plates, but I'll take them. Like he's my wife says I don't need any, but I love Strength Co. So you're well known. In the community.
Wow, that's real. You didn't just make that up to appease me.
No.
Oh, cool.
The SOCOM Command Sergeant Major, and
nice.
He came in his souped up truck, and well, not souped up. It was a nice truck, and he had a Belgian Malinois, just kind of sitting in the back, and
is that a dog?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, not a person.
It's a mean dog.
Yeah. So yeah, I remember he was like, yeah, I love Strength Co. I got tons of stuff, but he was like, I don't need any more, but I'll take it. I sold him a lot of the things. And then I think the girl that you mentioned was, I sold her something. I forget what it was.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. Yeah. I didn't actually want the
$200,
answer.
baby.
I just want, I don't remember what it was. Whatever you sold it to him for, it wasn't enough. You should have asked double.
Yeah.
But good. Okay. So at this point of the show, we usually go into stuff, but I actually think that you'd appreciate, and Trey and I will appreciate, you're a believer in Christ. Mm-hmm. That is like the sole mission of your family and your career. Have you found that difficult, like to be in the Army and be sold out to the Lord? Or have you found it like this has been the thing that's like made me deal with this circus? I feel like I should ask you that.
No, that's a great question.
Talk about that in any way you want.
I think a Christian in the military, I find myself quiet about it. I think, and the more I guess when I find a Christian in the military, I'm surprised now these days because I feel like I'm finding less and less just as a whole. And so it's not that what I loved about you, Grant, you're very good at evangelism, and I've never been very good at that. You could probably, and obviously instrumental in leading my faith, but in this time frame, I mean, it's not something that I am vocal about, where I may be more vocal or, willing to talk to folks about, history or whatever, something like that. I feel like if we're at the point in the military or the career field environment right now, is if I were to bring it up, like I would get chastised or something like that,
Yeah.
And so that's just my take now. And so I do find it kind of difficult, I guess, in a cultural sense, but in a sense to where I rely on my faith. I mean, I find myself times a day like praying about a particular issue or something like that I'm trying to work through. And I'm not perfect by any stretch of imagination. And my wife's going through some health stuff right now, and it's been difficult. I've been been angry, and trying to balance that with the military, and and so I would say as a whole, yeah, it's been difficult. So
yeah, no, I think it's Go ahead.
I don't mean that to be so negative. I mean, we are told that we're supposed to carry our cross, and I guess I've never, I know plenty of folks that serve in the military, and I know there are folks that are Christians, but I don't see them very vocal about it, I guess, for the most part. I just happen to know yeah.
Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah, no, it's a can be a tough thing and an interesting thing. I had a gunny that came in actually your field too, for that buddy of mine that's deploying. Cause I mean, I would never deploy, but that buddy of mine's going over there. And so he came into we had to sign a bunch of stuff. And then I saw him at the ball later and I was like, hey, Gunny, thanks for coming by. And he's holding a baby. Right. And I'm missing my 5-week-old. And so I grab his baby and it's 3 months. Right. And I'm doing all the stuff that I've learned. Cause I'm an expert, Tim. I don't know if you know this. I'm a dad. If you need help, just call me. Yeah, I got it. And so I'm doing all this stuff. And I'm like, what's his name? He's like Malachi. And I'm like, like the book of the Bible. He's like, oh yeah, I'm a born again believer. And I was like, me too, brother.
Yeah.
And so we had a good moment, but it was funny because I had worked with him that whole morning, and I don't want to say not that I would have never known in the sense of his conduct wasn't good. Right. But it just doesn't come up. So it is a thing, but I wanted to say that. And for the folks listening, just so they had a chance. Okay. I got one more funny question that's going to lead us into our sponsor, BW Tax. This question's from BW, which I feel like your ad read is either going to be terrible because you know him too well or the best we've ever heard.
Yeah.
But he just said TB topics. If you didn't know, the power ranking questions were from him.
Okay.
And then he said, does he remember the FTX senior year when he was BW's first sergeant in an ambush and BW got an E, which I don't even know what that means. So FTX, field training exercise for your non-military types or for your non-citadel types. The ROTC guys have to do it. Every cadet has to be involved in ROTC. You were the first sergeant. Yeah. And BW was in your whatever, and he got an E. Don't remember. It's better if you don't remember.
I don't remember.
Is E for excellent?
Yeah.
I assume it's for excellent at taxes.
I honestly don't remember. BW, he's a good chess player. I played him a couple times online. And he's really good at chess.com. I've gotten into it, but
shout out potential sponsor.
He's so good that when we played, he's even taken pieces off the board when we start to where I'm at an advantage, and he still absolutely crushes me.
Is he that good?
Yeah, he's very
good. Are you being funny for the sake of the podcast?
No,
or are you dead serious?
I'm dead serious. He's that good at chess, and so that's why when you guys were talking about
the slide deck, man, yeah.
When you guys were talking about was it fly fishing? I think I was like, I want to learn how to fly fish, and I need a hobby, and BW was like, what about chess? Or is chess not your hobby? I was like, no, it is, but I need an outdoor hobby. So yeah,
you should take up fly fishing.
Yeah,
or any type of fishing. You're in a good area for it, and I have found it's the one thing that completely takes my brain off of everything else that I actually enjoy. So if you want to come down here, I'll take you. But after my friend gets back from deployment.
Yeah, right.
So anyway, at this point in the show, we have a couple things we go through. Jeff's not here. His parents are in town. The only reason we excuse people from the podcast is for family. And so he couldn't make it. His part's next. Trey, just take him through it.
This can be probably the easiest one.
Probably the easiest one we've ever done.
So you've listened to the show before.
Oh yeah, long time. Love it.
We make the you're our second listener, man. I appreciate that. It's we make all the guests do a little ad spot for our favorite tax man, BW.
Yeah.
So we'll give you a couple facts. I'm sure you already know them, and then you take 10 seconds, you can take 10 minutes, whatever you want to do, and just get a solid ad read for the main man, BW, over there.
Yeah.
So we'll spit some facts at you. You got to throw the chess player. Like, I didn't realize he was so good at chess.
Yeah, that's
See
a good
if you
one.
can incorporate that in there. That's pretty good.
Let me start, and then you go again, because I feel like Tim's a little bit different. We talk about BW every week. We always have for 48 weeks from the start of this podcast. Back when Bitcoin was 42,000, we've talked about BW tax. But one thing that I find interesting about BW tax is, like, he loves Boston sports, but he's totally embraced the South. The guy sends me more Gamecock news, Citadel insights, Greenville County road updates than anyone I know. And what it shows me is he's a community man. And so whether you're in his community or another one, he could always do your taxes. And I'll tell you, like, some people, like in the town, we'd call him a toonie, but in South Carolina, we just call him a friend. And so he's good at taxes wherever you are. Trey?
So the thing I'll have to say about him is I called him on a legitimate tax question last week. Like, it was like, no joke. It wasn't even for the podcast. I had a tax question because I'm like, hey, we're doing our taxes with him this year. And I called the number. It said, hey, if you want to talk to BW, click 1. I clicked 1. He picked up like first ring. Yeah. So it's legit. Like, you call him, you're not talking to anybody who's like a chat bot or anything like that, or click 1 for English, click 2 for accounting, whatever it might be. Yeah. So you call BW, you get BW.
Okay. Yeah.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Or you need more info?
No, I've got it.
Dude, we got more. Okay.
All right, go for it. Go for it, Tim. And
okay.
I'm not saying you have to do a New England accent, but it'd be great.
If you action.
Okay. So guys, you guys know I love this country. The one thing I always find myself complaining about is the gradual decline in just good old customer service that in this fast-paced and automated world. Just the other day, my wife sent me a text message about robots that were delivering her food to her at her restaurants. And that's where BW Tax comes in. When you're trying to do your taxes, you always know that you can actually talk to a real person. In this era where conversations have been replaced by chatbots and social media, BW Pet Tax believes in the power of human interaction and also your financial success. But more than that, BW Tax is very good at navigating the complexities of tax law. It's like a game of chess where every move matters. BW Tax has a passion for chess, and it translates in its commitment to each client's situation for their strategic foresight, planning, and commitment to keeping you several steps ahead of the game and keeping the IRS at check. That's all I got.
I think that rates it. That rates it. Dadgum.
Yeah.
That rates it.
Dadgum. That was good. Okay, Tim. Well, I know you're not out here for the fame or the glory, because that's why you joined the Army and you get it all there. But I don't know if people found you encouraging, if they liked your insights. Maybe it's a young second lieutenant in the Army. Maybe it's a guy, I don't know, has to move with his wife and family. If they wanted to find you and if you wanted to be available, what would you tell them?
So I'm not on social media. I'm on Facebook, but I have very few limited friends. It's just BW and me. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, are you on Facebook?
I'm not on Facebook. I've never been on.
I have about 50 friends. I've kind of narrowed it down just to close friends and family, I guess. But
I get it. Big Intel guy.
So, I mean, if somebody wanted to reach out,
don't follow me. Yeah.
I do. If somebody wanted to reach out, they're more than happy to, am I allowed to share my email here or just hold off on if somebody, I guess they could contact you and I can more than happy to talk.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that works. So if you want to talk to Tim, DM the OK podcast, which brings it up saying the name. Man, Jeff's not here to do his part. Do you want to do it or you want me to do it?
Oh, I think you got this. You can explain better than me.
So, man, we generally walk people through it from the Marine Corps side of life. Mm-hmm. And the Army side of life is a lot different. I think you going to the Army is actually one thing that took me into the Marine Corps because we did not commission at the same time. I did it later. But, you got I'm going to butcher the ranks. I'm going to butcher it and you clean it up. All right. So, what's your gunny in the Army? Is it a sergeant first class? Sergeant first class. Crusty guy that's just pissed at everything? Is that sergeant first class?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So, sergeant first class. I don't know. You're drawing weapons and everyone's supposed to be there at 06 a.m. and everyone's there at 06, but the specialist hasn't even opened the thing, but the sergeant first class has counted everyone. Mm-hmm. And the specialist opens it at 6:15 and the last soldier comes up and they're at the back of the line. And even though it doesn't matter, the sergeant first class is pissed. And he's like, okay, I know I told you 06. We just need okay. You can put it in a sentence form. You can just say it, whatever you want to do. Okay. That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
I've heard worse.
Pretty good. Well, Tim, tell Anna and the family and the dogs, hello. Thanks for coming on. You're the first Army soldier to come on. Sorry. Salute.
We had who's a CrossFit guy.
Oh, correct. He did 3 years. My bad.
But we didn't talk anything about the Army.
He's the first Army officer.
True. Accurate.
True. Yeah. Second soldier. So remember, if we get mean DMs about how come the OK podcast only brings on the Marine Corps, we have brought on Army before.
Yeah.
But we're glad you're here. I don't know. You want to give a Casey Affleck impersonation before you leave?
I don't know if I could.
Nailed it.
Yeah, done.
That was good.
Yeah, that was great. Honestly. Yeah, that was perfect. You have to click leave and we have to let it upload. But thanks for coming on, dude. Would you give him anything, Trey?
Oh, if I had to give him anything, it would probably be a
good dude.
Good dude.
Yeah, good dude. Some insightful stuff there.
I feel like he could have talked Civil War for probably.
Oh, you have no idea. This podcast is reaching new heights.
Joe Rogan numbers, baby.
I've been going a while. Yeah, he could have gone deep in the Civil War. I thought it was top 5. I didn't want to pick him apart, but I actually struggle. He said Departed very easily, and I'm a big back and forth with Departed in the Town.
I agree with him. I think Departed's the best Boston movie.
I think it's a better movie unless you want Boston nostalgia, the scenery in the town. But anyway, I digress. We have other things to talk about. Yeah, both good movies. Great guest, good dude, Tim Bane. Thanks for coming on. Man, we are just blowing through the timeline. What do you want me to do? You want me to just hit the top 12 and talk?
Man, I just think it's rivalry weekend.
Did it come out?
Yeah, it did.
Okay, have you looked at it?
I have.
Okay.
You want me to pull it up?
I think I got it right here. Okay. I have not looked at it. I'll start from 12. Oh, God, we're not there. Okay, South Carolina number 15, what everyone wants to know about. 12, Clemson, in out.
I think, I honestly expect South Carolina to win this weekend.
Which puts them in. They jump Alabama and Ole Miss.
Yeah.
Okay. So Clemson's then out.
Correct.
Boise?
I think they stay.
Indiana?
I think they stay.
SMU?
I think they're out.
Who do they play?
I think if SMU, I think they clinch the ACC. I'm not 100% sure. They might have to win, but I think they'll lose if they end up playing in the ACC championship, which it looks like they're going to. They'll lose to Miami,
Tennessee.
I think they're in.
Georgia.
I think Georgia's in.
Miami.
I think they're in.
Notre Dame.
They're in.
Penn State.
Yeah, I think they're in.
Texas.
And yeah, they're in.
Even if you beat them, they're in.
I think they're since everybody lost last weekend, I think they're in.
Ohio State.
And
Oregon.
I think they're in.
So there's one spot up for grabs, and it's Clemson.
I could see. I think Boise State has. I think if they win their conference, I think they're automatically in. I might be wrong on that.
Okay,
but I think Clemson. I could see South Carolina hopping in at a 12 spot.
So you think is South Carolina?
I said SMU's out too.
Well, who are they playing?
So I think there's SMU will probably play if they make it to the ACC championship. I think they play Miami, and I think Miami beats them.
So are they done right now? Like they must play. They play California. Oh, I could totally see California beating them just randomly.
That would be nice. Also ACC, right?
That makes a ton of sense. Atlantic California Conference.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, so you're saying there's a chance. Is there any shot where A&M gets in?
They have to win. In my opinion, they have to win the SEC. So they got to win the next two games.
So if they beat Texas, are they in the SEC championship?
So A&M, if catch everybody up, lost to Auburn in a 4 overtime thriller. It was a good game. It was fun to watch.
Yeah, sad.
Yeah, sad for me.
Great for Jeff.
Since they lost, I thought they were out. And then come to find out, since Alabama lost to Oklahoma pretty spectacularly by the grace of Oklahoma, A&M is, if they win, they're in to the SEC championship.
So if A&M beats Texas, they're in the SEC championship.
The winner of the Texas versus Texas A&M game goes to the SEC championship. They go to Atlanta.
Wow. And play Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Gig 'em.
Which is crazy because Tennessee would be nuts if Vandy beats Tennessee this weekend. Then who knows? So
if Tennessee beats Vandy, Georgia, because Georgia beat Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
And Georgia, I think Georgia's in no matter what. Even if they lose, even if Georgia loses the SEC championship, let's say to Texas or Texas A&M, I think they're still in. I think they'll be in a later seed.
Crazy.
I know. That's just me guessing, man. Who knows? After last weekend, who knows?
Well, this is
absolutely crazy.
Absolutely.
You excited about the South Carolina game?
Yeah, I'm going.
Oh, are you really?
Yeah, I'm going. So my brother Jordan, Home Depot. If you don't shop at Home Depot, shop at Home Depot. Online sales are crazy right now. I just bought a new washer and dryer for my house in California for that buddy of mine that's deploying out there. Check him out. So yeah, he's coming with his family. The girls are going to stick with the wife and the baby, and I'm going to South Carolina Clemson. I'll be there noon kickoff.
That's kind of lame.
Yeah, it's actually super convenient for my life though. So I'm not.
That's why
mad.
they planned it.
Yeah, that's why they planned it. They planned it around me. Let's see. I'm just gonna hit a couple topics. We're not going to talk about them. And Washington Cowboys game was a crazy finish. Pat's Geno's. Jeff and I ate Philly cheesesteaks. We didn't like any of them.
Touch on that.
Yeah, they sucked.
Oh, no one liked them.
No, they're terrible. Just eat pizza while you're there. Gladiator 2. Tim said it sucked. We don't have to touch that next week. Is Tim Bane a spy? I don't think we figured that out. Yeah, I think we covered all the slides. I got no save rounds. I got no alibis. Trey, take us down for a landing.
Hey, this episode 048.
Shout out to the 4-8s out there.
Oh, wait, 4-8.
We forgot that. Yeah, shout out to the 4-8s. For
my favorite and least favorite MOS.
Yeah. Of the
okay.
Yeah,
there you go. Miss Jeff.
Yeah, me too.
Podcasts. I'd like to thank our sponsor as always, BW Tax, keeping the lights on. Good dude, better at taxes. I'd like to thank our other sponsor, Green Gridiron.
The helmet guy.
Mr. Helmet. Yeah.
Mr. Helmet. That's what it was.
Fine. You can see that link below. Click that link. It will take you right. It's super easy. It took me about 30 seconds to design a helmet, pick one out, and send it over to Jeff. Unfortunately, I wanted to send him a Chicago Bears because Jeff's a big Green Bay Packers fan. So
huge Bears guy.
But hey, deal's a deal. He got the Auburn helmet. Man, good dude again. Love talking to Tim. That was great meeting him. Interesting kind of his life journey so far and kind of how everything's worked out. So glad he came on. Hey, we're open to anybody who wants to come on here. We'll talk
Seriously.
to anybody. Yeah, I know. Look at the link below. You'll see the Slack. If you click that link, use code OK for $10 off. Slack channel. If you got any questions about lifting, feel free to ask me there. If you got any life questions, just want to be silly, all the above. You can find pretty much anything and everything in the Slack channel. Go to www.theokpodcast.com and you will find all of the social media links. Give us a like and subscribe there. Find us on YouTube. A like and subscribe as well. See our beautiful faces.
In lieu of Jeff.
In lieu of Jeff, Grant is live streaming for Jeff. We all have our each and individual social media accounts that we are all very active on. I think that's why Jeff couldn't make it today. He had had a live, I don't know, some Instagram thing. Who knows what he had?
Who knows?
I hope it's going well.
Yeah.
But no, Jeff have enjoyed time with the family, so good for him. Want to wish everybody happy Thanksgiving. Amen. Coach, did I miss anything?
No, I think you did good. Thanks for listening. If you made it this far, Mom, we appreciate you, and see you next week.